Leadership isn't given. It's recognized. And it starts the moment you open your mouth. People decide whether to follow you in seconds, not based on your title, but on how you speak. Your voice reveals your certainty. Your words expose your thinking. Your delivery shows your character. This isn't about manipulation or performance. It's about aligning what you say with who you are, then communicating that truth with precision and strength. The world is full of voices. Most of them fade into background noise within minutes. But some voices cut through. Some voices make people stop, think, and act. Some voices build movements, change minds, and create loyalty. The difference isn't volume. It's not charisma. It's not even intelligence. The difference is intentionality. Most people speak out of habit. They use the same phrases they've always used. They adopt the tone of their environment. They mirror the energy of whoever they're talking to. There's no strategy, no awareness, no discipline. They're passengers in their own communication, letting circumstance dictate how they sound. Leaders are different. They take ownership of every word. They understand that communication is a tool, not a reflex. They know that how they speak shapes how they're perceived, and how they're perceived determines whether anyone follows them. You don't need to be loud. You need to be clear. You don't need to impress. You need to connect. You don't need permission. You need conviction. This book will show you how to build that voice. Not through tricks or manipulation, but through fundamental shifts in how you think about communication. You'll learn to speak with authority without being authoritarian. You'll learn to be direct without being harsh. You'll learn to command attention without demanding it. The principles here aren't theory. They're tested in boardrooms, difficult conversations, team meetings, negotiations, conflicts, and everyday interactions. They work because they're built on one simple truth. People follow clarity, strength, and authenticity. When your voice carries all three, leadership becomes natural. Let's build the voice that moves people. Chapter 1. Speak from certainty, not approval. The problem: most people speak to be accepted. Leaders speak to be understood. Walk into any meeting and listen carefully. You'll hear the language of permission seeking everywhere. I think we should maybe try this approach. This might not be the best idea, but I'm not sure. But what if we... Every sentence is hedged, softened, weakened by the speaker's fear of rejection. This happens for a reason. From childhood, most of us are taught to be agreeable. Don't be too bold. Don't stand out too much. Don't risk being wrong in front of others. So we learn to speak in ways that protect us from judgment. We add qualifiers to our statements. We present our ideas as questions. We apologize before we've even said anything worth apologizing for. But here's what that language really communicates. I don't fully believe what I'm about to say, so please don't hold me accountable for it. And when people hear that, they stop listening. Not consciously, they won't stand up and walk out, but mentally they check out. Because humans are wired to follow certainty, not hesitation. Leadership requires a different approach. When you speak as a leader, you're not asking for permission. You're providing direction. You're not hoping people agree. You're showing them a path forward. And that requires eliminating the language of uncertainty from your vocabulary. The shift. Certainty in communication doesn't mean you're never wrong. It means you've done the thinking, made the decision, and now you're guiding others through it. There's no doubt in your delivery, because the doubt was resolved before you opened your mouth. Replace uncertainty with clarity. I think we should try this. Here's what we're doing. This might work. This will work because, I'm not sure, but remove it entirely. Maybe we will. What if we considered, we need to? Notice the difference. The second version doesn't leave room for ambiguity. It's not aggressive, it's clear. You're not demanding obedience, you're demonstrating confidence. And confidence is magnetic, but this shift can't be superficial. You can't just change your words without changing your thinking. If you say, here's what we're doing, while internally doubting yourself, people will sense the disconnection. Your tone will betray you. Your body language will contradict your words. The hesitation you tried to hide will leak out in 1,000 subtle ways. That's why certainty must be built internally first. Before you enter important conversations, you need to do the work. Think through your position. Consider the alternatives. Understand the risks. Make peace with your decision. Only then can you speak with genuine certainty. Because you're not performing confidence, you're expressing it. Here's what this looks like in practice. Week. I was thinking we might want to consider moving the deadline back a week. I know it's not ideal, but it could give us more time to get things right. What do you think? Strong. We're moving the deadline back 1 week. The current timeline doesn't account for the design revisions we discovered yesterday. An extra week ensures quality delivery instead of rushed work. They've already notified the client. See the difference? The first version asks for validation. It presents the idea as optional. It invites debate before the decision is even made. The second version presents a completed thought. It gives the reasoning. It shows action has already been taken. There's nothing to debate because the thinking is already done. This doesn't mean you never ask for input. It means, when you're seeking input versus when you're delivering direction. And when you're delivering direction, you speak with certainty. The danger of false certainty. There's a critical distinction here. Certainty doesn't mean pretending to know things you don't know. That's not leadership, that's lying. And people spot it immediately. True certainty comes from preparation and self-awareness. If you don't know something, you say so clearly, I don't have that data yet. I'll get it and we'll revisit this tomorrow at 2 p.m. That's still certain. You're certain about what you don't know, and you're certain about how you'll resolve it. False certainty sounds like this. I'm pretty sure the numbers will work out fine when you haven't actually checked the numbers. That's hope disguised as confidence, and it destroys trust. Leadership certainty means you've done the work to be certain, or you're honest about uncertainty while being certain about next steps. Both build trust. Fake confidence destroys it. Practice this. Before speaking in any important context, ask yourself 3 questions. Do I believe this? If yes, proceed. If no, don't speak until you've resolved your internal conflict. Have I thought this through? If yes, speak with clarity. If no, say, give me an hour to think this through properly, then we'll talk. Am I seeking input or delivering direction? If seeking input, frame it clearly. I'm thinking through our approach and want your perspective on 2 options. If delivering direction, remove all hedging language. For the next week, pay attention to every time you use uncertain language. Keep a count. I think mark it down. Maybe mark it down. Mark it down. Just awareness will cut your usage by half. Then start actively replacing those phrases with direct statements. Record yourself in practice conversations. Play it back. Listen for the moments where your voice wavers or softens unnecessarily. Redo the statement with firmness. Feel the difference in your own body as you speak with certainty versus hesitation. This is the foundation. Everything else builds on this. Because if your own voice doesn't believe what you're saying, no technique in the world will make others believe it. Chapter 2. Cut the clutter. Weak speakers hide behind words. Strong speakers use them as tools. There's a reason most communication fails. It's buried under too many words. People ramble. They repeat themselves. They add unnecessary context, irrelevant details, and circular explanations. By the time they reach their point, if they ever do, their audience has mentally left the room. This happens for 2 reasons. First, people think that more words equal more credibility. They believe if they explain something from every angle, add multiple examples, and cover every possible objection, they'll sound more thorough and intelligent. They're wrong. More words usually mean less clarity. Each additional sentence is another opportunity to lose your audience, another chance to muddy your message, another layer between your point and their understanding. The second reason people overtalk is fear. They're afraid their message won't land on its own, so they prop it up with unnecessary scaffolding. They worry that if they're too brief, people won't take them seriously. So they add and add and add until the original point is buried under debris. But here's the truth that separates average communicators from powerful ones. The strength of your message is inversely proportional to the number of words you need to deliver it. The cleaner you can make your communication, the harder it hits. Speak in clean lines. Every sentence should do work. If it doesn't advance your point, create clarity, or add necessary context, cut it. Think of your communication like a blade. Dull blades are thick and ineffective. Sharp blades are thin and precise. Your words should be the same, streamlined, efficient, purposeful. Here's the framework. 1 idea per sentence, 1 sentence per breath. 1 point per conversation. Let's break that down. 1 idea per sentence means you don't pack multiple concepts into a single statement. We need to improve our customer service response times, and also I think we should consider expanding our support team and maybe look at some new software options that could help automate some of the repetitive tasks. That's 4 ideas crammed together, creating confusion about what matters most. Instead, we need to improve our customer service response times. That means expanding our support team by 2 people and implementing automation software. I'll have specific recommendations by Friday. 3 sentences, 3 clear ideas. Easy to process, easy to remember, easy to act on. 1 sentence per breath is about pacing. When you speak in long, run-on sentences, 2 things happen. First, you literally run out of breath, which makes you sound rushed and desperate. Second, your listener can't process information in real time. They're still absorbing the first part of your sentence when you're already 3 ideas ahead. Shorter sentences give people time to absorb what you're saying. They create natural pauses that add emphasis. They make you sound more controlled and authoritative. 1 point per conversation means you have a clear North Star. What is the single most important thing you need to communicate? Everything else should support that central point or be eliminated. Most people walk into conversations with 5 things they want to say. They jump between topics, circle back to earlier points, introduce new ideas mid-discussion. The result is confusion. No one remembers the conversation clearly because there was no clear thread. Leaders identify their main point before they speak. Then they build everything around it. Supporting details? Fine. Examples? Sure, but only if they strengthen the central message. Everything else gets saved for another time. The art of elimination. Cutting clutter isn't about speaking less. It's about speaking better. Here are the most common forms of verbal clutter and how to eliminate them. Filler words, like, actually, basically. These add nothing. They're auditory placeholders while your brain catches up to your mouth. Record yourself speaking for 5 minutes. Count your filler words. Then practice the same topic again, consciously pausing instead of filling. Silence is always better than qualifying phrases. To be honest, I just wanted to say, for what it's worth, I could be wrong, but these actually weaken your credibility. To be honest implies you're not always honest. I could be wrong tells people not to trust what comes next. Just state your point directly. Redundant explanations, saying the same thing 3 different ways, doesn't make it clearer. It makes people wonder why you don't trust them to understand you the first time. Say it once, say it well, then move on. Unnecessary context. Not every statement needs a full backstory. So last year when we were working on the Johnson project, we ran into a similar issue. And my manager at the time, this was before Sarah joined, suggested we try a different approach. Stop. Get to the point. We solved a similar problem last year by doing X. That's all the context needed. Weak intensifiers. Very, really, absolutely, totally. These words try to add emphasis but actually dilute it. This is very important is weaker than this is critical. I really think we should is weaker than we need to. Strong words don't need modifiers. The power of short. Consider these 2 versions of the same message, version A. So I've been thinking about this for a while now. And I really feel like we might need to consider possibly restructuring the way our team handles client communication, because it seems like there are some inefficiencies in the current system that could potentially be improved if we took some time to really analyze the workflow and figure out where things are getting stuck. I mean, I could be wrong, but it just feels like we're not operating as smoothly as we could be. You know what I mean? Version B. Our client communication system has inefficiencies. I recommend we restructure it. I'll present 3 options at tomorrow's meeting. Both deliver the same essential information. But version B does it in 20 words instead of 87. It's 77% shorter and 100% clearer. Which speaker would you trust to lead the project? The second speaker sounds like someone who has thought things through, someone who respects your time, someone who knows exactly what they want. The first speaker sounds uncertain, scattered, and unprepared. Practice this. Start with written communication. Before sending your next email, cut it by half. Remove every unnecessary word, every unnecessary phrase, every piece of indirect information. You'll find that shorter emails get faster, clearer responses. Then move to verbal practice. Choose any topic and explain it in 60 seconds. Then explain the same topic in 30 seconds without losing the core message. Then try 15 seconds. This forces you to identify what's essential. In real conversations, practice the one-breath rule. Make your point in one breath, literally. If you run out of air before finishing your sentence, you're over-explaining. Break it into shorter statements. Keep a list of the words you use too often. For most people it's like, actually, and you know. Every time you catch yourself using one, mentally note it. Just awareness will reduce their frequency by 60–70%. Finally, embrace pauses. When you feel the urge to fill silence with extra explanation, stop. Count to 3. Let your previous statement breathe. You'll be amazed how much stronger your communication becomes when you give your words room to land. Remember, your goal isn't to say less. It's to make every word count. Clutter is the enemy of clarity, and clarity is the language of leadership. Chapter 3. Control your tone. Before your message. Your words say one thing. Your tone says another. People always believe the tone. Here's a truth that most people learn too late. Content is only half of communication. The other half is delivery. You can have the perfect message, the right words, the logical argument, but if your tone doesn't match your intention, everything falls apart. Tone is the invisible force that colors every word you speak. It carries emotion, attitude, confidence, respect, urgency, indifference, sometimes all at once. And here's what makes it powerful. Tone communicates faster than words. Before someone processes what you said, they've already felt how you said it. Think about the phrase, "that's interesting." Depending on tone, it could mean genuine curiosity, polite dismissal, sarcastic criticism, surprised approval, bored acknowledgement, same words, completely different meanings. That's the power and the danger of tone. Most people have never consciously thought about their tone. They speak reactively, letting their mood, their stress level, or their environment dictate how they sound. If they're frustrated, their voice gets sharp. If they're uncertain, it gets quiet. If they're excited, it speeds up. They're passengers, not drivers. Leaders are different. They understand that tone is a tool, not an accident. They learn to change its loudness, tone, pitch based on what the moment requires, not what their emotions demand. They can deliver difficult feedback with a calm tone, communicate urgency without panic, show strength without aggression, express care without weakness. This level of control doesn't come naturally. It's built through awareness, practice, and discipline. Your tone must match your intention, not your emotion. That's the fundamental principle. You're not suppressing emotion, you're channeling it productively. Let's break down the core tonal qualities and when to use each. Grounded tone, low, steady, even-paced. Use this for serious discussions, delivering difficult news, making important decisions, or establishing authority. This tone says, I'm in control. This is handled. You can trust my judgment. Energetic tone, higher pitch, faster pace, varied rhythm. Use this for building excitement, motivating action, celebrating wins, or energizing a room. This tone says, this matters. This is worth getting excited about. Let's move. Measured tone, moderate pitch, deliberate pacing, clear pronunciation. Use this for teaching, explaining complex ideas, giving detailed instructions, or working through problems. This tone says, follow my thinking. I'll make this clear. We'll solve this together. Firm tone, strong, direct, no wavering. Use this for setting boundaries, making non-negotiable statements, stopping bad behavior, or pushing back. This tone says, this is not up for debate. I mean exactly what I'm saying. This is the line. The mistake most people make is using the same tone for everything. They're always measured, or always energetic, or always firm. But effective communicators shift tones based on what each moment demands. The anatomy of tone. Tone isn't one thing, it's a combination of several elements. Higher pitch conveys excitement, urgency, or nervousness. Lower pitch conveys authority, calm, or seriousness. Most leaders default to a slightly lower pitch than their natural speaking voice because it projects stability. Pace. Fast pace shows excitement or anxiety. Slow pace shows thoughtfulness or emphasis. Variable pace keeps attention. The key is matching pace to purpose. Explaining something complex. Slow down, building momentum. Speed up, making a critical point. Slow way down, volume, louder isn't stronger. In fact, the most powerful moments often come from getting quieter, not louder. Dropping your volume forces people to lean in and pay closer attention. Say volume increases for genuine emphasis, not for regular communication. Rhythm, monotone is death. Even if your words are good, a flat delivery makes them forgettable. Vary your rhythm. Pause at key moments. Emphasize important words. Create a melody with your speech that keeps people engaged. Quality. This is the texture of your voice. Warm, cold, sharp, smooth, harsh, gentle. A warm quality builds connection. A sharp quality cuts through noise. A smooth quality eases tension. You adjust this based on your relationship with the listener and your goal for the conversation. When tone betrays you. The most common tonal mistakes that undermine leadership. Upspeak, ending statements with a rising inflection, like they're questions. We need to finish this project? By Friday? This makes you sound uncertain about your own statements. It's asking for permission when you should be giving direction. Fix it by dropping your tone at the end of sentences, not raising it. Vocal fry, that creaky, low sound at the end of sentences. It sounds disengaged and unprofessional. It happens when you run out of breath. Fix it by breathing properly and supporting your voice throughout the sentence. Rush delivery, speaking so fast that words blur together. This communicates anxiety or disrespect for the listener's processing time. Fix it by consciously slowing down, especially at the start of conversations, to set a measured pace. Flat affect, no variation in tone, pitch, or energy. This makes even exciting content sound boring. Fix it by identifying your key points and consciously adding emphasis through pace changes and volume shifts. Aggressive edge, a sharp, hard quality that makes everything sound like a challenge. This creates defensiveness in listeners. Fix it by softening your tone slightly while maintaining firmness in your message. The physical foundation. Your tone doesn't exist in isolation. It's directly connected to your physical state. This is why tone control starts with body control. Posture. When you stand or sit with shoulders and head bend, it looks lazy and unattractive and compresses your diaphragm and weakens your voice. Standing or sitting straight opens your chest and gives your voice power. Breathing. Shallow breathing creates a weak, shaky voice. Deep belly breathing creates a strong, steady voice. Before important conversations, take 3 deep breaths from your diaphragm. You'll immediately sound more grounded. Tension. When you're tense, shoulders up, jaw tight, hands clenched, your voice reflects it. It gets higher, tighter, faster. Release physical tension, and your tone naturally improves. Roll your shoulders back. Unclench your jaw. Relax your hands. Hydration. Dry throat and dry vocal cords create a strained, weak sound. Keep water nearby. Sip regularly. Your voice is a physical instrument that needs maintenance. Energy level. Low physical energy creates low vocal energy, which sounds like disengagement. If you're exhausted, your tone will betray you no matter what words you use. Manage your energy, especially before important conversations. Practice this. Record yourself having a normal conversation. Don't try to perform, just speak naturally. Then listen back with fresh ears. Ask yourself, does my tone match the importance of what I'm saying? Do I sound rushed or measured? Is my voice strong or shaky? Am I easy to listen to or exhausting? Would I trust the person speaking? Next, practice tonal shifts. Say the same sentence 5 different ways. Excited, serious, urgent, calm, firm. Feel how your body adjusts for each tone. Notice which ones feel natural and which ones feel forced. The forced ones need more practice. Before important conversations, do a voice warm-up. For 30 seconds. Speak your first 3 sentences out loud while alone. This activates your voice and lets you hear your tone before it matters. During conversations, check in with yourself every few minutes. Is my tone still serving my message? Am I speeding up from nerves? Am I getting too flat from boredom? Make micro adjustments in real time. Finally, get feedback. Ask someone you trust. How do I sound when I'm trying to be authoritative? Supportive, direct. Their outside perspective will reveal blind spots. You can't hear yourself. Your tone is your emotional signature on every word you speak. Master it, and your message becomes exponentially more powerful. Ignore it, and even perfect words will fall flat. Chapter 4. Say what others won't. Most people say what's comfortable. Leaders say what's necessary. There's a silence in most rooms. Not the absence of talking. Rooms are full of talking. But there's usually one thing that needs to be said that no one is saying. Everyone knows it. Everyone's thinking about it. But no one wants to be the one to bring it up. Maybe it's the fact that a project is failing and everyone's pretending it isn't. Maybe it's that someone on the team isn't pulling their weight. Maybe it's that the strategy everyone's executing doesn't actually make sense. Maybe it's that the emperor has no clothes, but everyone's too polite or too scared to say it. This is where most people stop. They don't want to create discomfort. They don't want to be seen as negative or difficult. They don't want to rock the boat, so they stay silent, even though their silence makes them complicit in whatever's being avoided. Leaders are different. They understand that saying nothing is saying something. It's saying that comfort matters more than truth. That social acceptance matters more than solving problems. That maintaining false peace matters more than real progress. Leadership requires speaking to reality, not around it. It requires naming what needs to be named, addressing what needs to be addressed, and calling out what needs to be called out. Not with cruelty or ego, but with clarity and necessity. People don't need more encouragement to stay comfortable. They're already getting that from everywhere else, from social media, from their friends who tell them what they want to hear, from a culture that prioritizes feelings over growth. What they need from a leader is clarity about what comfort is costing them. This is uncomfortable for most people to hear, which is precisely why it needs to be said. When you speak the truth that others are avoiding, you do 3 things simultaneously. First, you establish yourself as someone who can be trusted to tell the truth, even when it's hard. That trust is the foundation of all influence. Second, you give others permission to acknowledge reality. Once someone finally says what everyone's thinking, it breaks the spell. Others can finally stop pretending and start problem solving. Third, you demonstrate the kind of courage that people want to follow. Not reckless courage. Measured, purposeful courage that serves the situation, not your ego. How to speak difficult truths. There's a right way and a wrong way to say what others won't. The wrong way is making it about you. I'm sick of watching us fail at this. That's ego talking, not leadership. The wrong way is making it about them. You people keep making the same mistakes. That's blame, not clarity. The right way is making it about the situation. We're 6 weeks into this project, and we're still unclear on basic objectives. That needs to change today. That's direct, specific, and focused on what matters. The situations that require hard truths. Some situations demand that you speak what others won't. There's a difference between being honest and being brutal. Leaders are honest. They speak truth clearly and directly, but they don't weaponize truth. They don't use honesty as an excuse to be cruel, brutal. This is the worst work you've ever done. Honest. This doesn't meet the standard we agreed on. What happened? Brutal. You're lazy. Honest. I'm seeing pattern of missed deadlines and minimal effort. That's not acceptable. Brutal. This idea is stupid. Honest. This idea won't work because it ignores 3 key market factors. Notice the difference? Honesty is specific, focused on behavior or outcomes, and points toward solutions. Brutality is general, attacks the person, and offers no path forward. Practice this. Start small. In your next meeting, identify one thing that needs to be said that no one is saying. Then say it. Simple, direct, no apology. We're avoiding the main issue. The problem is X. We need to address it. Watch what happens. Most of the time the room will shift. Someone will acknowledge you're right. The conversation will finally get real. Problems will start getting solved instead of avoided. Make this a habit. In every situation, ask yourself, what's true that no one is saying? Not what would be interesting to say, or what would make me look smart, but what truth needs to be spoken. Get comfortable with the brief discomfort that follows difficult truths. It passes quickly, and what replaces it is respect, trust, and actual progress. Finally, balance hard truths with genuine support. You can be honest about problems while also being supportive about solutions. This isn't working can be followed by, and here's how I can help you fix it. The world has enough people saying comfortable things. It needs more people willing to say necessary things. That courage, expressed through clear and direct communication, is what separates those who talk from those who lead. Chapter 5. Use silence as punctuation. Nervous speakers fill every gap. Powerful speakers let silence work. Most people are terrified of silence. They view pauses in conversation as awkward, as failures of communication, as voids that must be filled immediately. So they talk and talk and talk. They add unnecessary explanations. They repeat points already made. They fill every second with sound because silence feels like losing control. But here's what they don't understand. Silence is not empty space. It's powerful space. It's where meaning settles. It's where listeners process. It's where emphasis lives. And when you master the use of silence, your communication becomes exponentially more powerful. Think about music. The notes matter, but so do the rests, the intentional pauses between notes. Without rests, music is just noise. The silence is what creates rhythm, emphasis, beauty. The same is true for speech. When you finish a strong statement and immediately keep talking, you undercut your own message. You signal that you don't trust it to land. You don't give your listener time to absorb it, to feel its weight, to connect with its meaning. Instead, you rush past it toward the next idea, leaving your best points buried under unnecessary follow-up. But when you deliver truth and then pause, you give people space to absorb it. That pause says, "What I just said matters." Sit with it. Let it register, and in that silence, your message gains power. Build pauses into your rhythm deliberately. Silence is not something that happens to you. It's something you create on purpose. After important points, when you make a key statement, stop. Count to 3 in your head. Let it breathe. This does 3 things. It gives you time to prepare your next thought. It gives your listener time to process. And it adds weight to what you just said. Example, we're changing our entire approach to customer service. Pause for 3 seconds. Here's why that matters. That pause creates anticipation. It tells the listener that what you just said was significant. It makes them lean in for what comes next. After questions, when someone asks you a question, resist the urge to answer immediately. Pause for 2 seconds. This shows you're actually thinking about your response, not just reacting. It demonstrates respect for the question, and it prevents you from saying something unprepared that you'll regret. Example. Question is asked. Pause for 2 seconds. Maintain eye contact. Here's what I think. That brief pause completely changes the dynamic. Instead of looking reactive, you look thoughtful. Instead of seeming defensive, you seem considered. The quality of your answer improves because you gave yourself 2 seconds to organize your thoughts. After someone else speaks, don't jump in the instant they finish. Wait 1 full second. This shows you're absorbing what they said, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It creates space for deeper conversation, and it prevents you from interrupting or talking over people. Before difficult statements, when you need to deliver hard news or make a tough call, pause before you speak. Take a breath. This grounds you and prepares your listener. We need to talk about something important. Pause. The project is over budget by 30%. That pause creates a beat that says, pay attention, this matters. It's the verbal equivalent of a chapter break in a book. It signals a shift, types of silence and their uses. Not all silence is the same. Different pauses serve different purposes. The emphasis, pause 1 to 2 seconds, used after key points to let them sink in. This is non-negotiable. Pause. We start Monday. The thinking pause, 2 to 3 seconds. Used when asked a question or when working through a problem in real time. Shows you're engaged and processing, not autopiloting. The invitation pause, 3 to 5 seconds, used after asking a question to give others space to respond without pressure. What do you think? Pause and wait, don't fill the silence. The power pause, 5+ seconds, used rarely in high-stakes moments when you need to regain control of a room or make a dramatic point. Can feel very long, but that's the point. It resets the energy. Why silence makes people uncomfortable. Understanding why silence feels awkward helps you push through that feeling. Social conditioning. We're taught that conversation should flow continuously. Silence is viewed as failure to connect. But this is cultural programming, not truth. Fear of judgment. When there's silence, we worry others are judging us. They think I'm awkward. They think I don't know what to say. But usually they're just processing what you said. Loss of control. Talking feels like controlling the interaction. Silence feels like losing that control. But actually, strategic silence gives you more control because it makes your words carry more weight. Anxiety. For many people, silence triggers anxiety. They need constant stimulation, constant input. Learning to be comfortable in silence is a skill that extends beyond communication. It's emotional maturity. Overcoming the discomfort. Here's how to get comfortable with purposeful pauses. Practice alone first. Speak out loud about any topic for 2 minutes. Every time you make a point, pause for a full 3 seconds before continuing. This trains your brain that pauses are normal, not emergencies. Count in your head. When you pause, count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. This gives you something to do during the silence so you don't rush to fill it. Watch skilled speakers. Pay attention to how they use pauses. TED speakers, great teachers, experienced leaders, they all pause deliberately. Study when and how they do it. Start small. If 3 seconds feels impossible, start with 1. Build up gradually. As you notice the positive impact, longer pauses become easier. Reframe silence. Stop thinking of it as awkward empty space and start thinking of it as powerful emphasis. The mental shift makes it easier to execute. The strategic uses of silence. Beyond emphasis, silence serves specific communication goals. To regain control, if a meeting gets chaotic or heated, stop talking. Complete silence for 5 full seconds. Everyone will quiet down and look at you. Then speak calmly. Let's reset. Here's what matters. To make someone else talk. If you're dealing with someone who's not being forthcoming, ask a direct question, then go completely silent. Don't help them. Don't fill the space. Wait. Most people will eventually fill silence, and that's when truth comes out. To show disapproval, sometimes silence is more powerful than words. Someone says something out of line? Don't respond. Just look at them. Let the silence communicate your response. It's often more effective than any verbal correction to create anticipation. If you're about to share important news or a big decision, pause before you do. Build tension. I've made a decision about the project. Pause for 4 seconds. We're moving forward. To process emotion, if something makes you angry or defensive, pause before responding. That silence is working time. You're choosing your response instead of reacting when not to pause. Silence is powerful, but it's not always appropriate. Don't pause. In emergency situations requiring immediate response. When answering simple, factual questions. When someone is clearly anxious and needs help to stop them worrying. The key is intentionality. You're choosing when to pause based on what the moment needs, not just pausing randomly or nervously. Practice this. For your next important conversation, plan 3 specific moments where you'll pause. After stating your main point. After asking a key question. Before delivering your conclusion. Write these down beforehand. I will pause after saying X. This gives you permission to do it and makes you more likely to follow through. During the conversation, when you reach those moments, pause. Feel the discomfort. Push through it. Count to 3. Notice what happens. In most cases, you'll find that the pause made your point land harder, not softer. Record yourself practicing a presentation or difficult conversation. Watch it back. Mark every place where a pause would improve your delivery. Then do it again with the pauses added. You'll immediately see and feel the difference. Finally, practice being comfortable in silence generally. Sit in a quiet room for 5 minutes without your phone. No music, no TV, no distractions. Just you and silence. Get used to it. The more comfortable you are with silence in general, the more naturally you'll use it in communication. Remember, weak speakers fear silence and rush to fill it. Strong speakers wield silence and let it work. The pause is not the absence of communication, it's a critical part of it. Master the pause, and your words will carry 3 times the weight with half the effort. Chapter 6. Match your words to your life. If you're not living what you're saying, your voice knows it. And so does everyone listening. There's a hollowness to advice that comes from theory instead of experience. People can sense it immediately, even if they can't tell why. The words might be correct, the logic might be sound, but something's missing. What's missing is proof. What's missing is the lived reality that makes communication trusted. You can tell someone to wake up early, work harder, be more disciplined, take more risks. But if you're not doing those things yourself, your words carry no weight. You're not speaking from authority, you're speaking from imagination. You're narrating someone else's life, not sharing your own. This is the fundamental problem with most leadership communication. It's performative. People say what they think leaders should say, not what they've actually learned through their own experience. They adopt the language of discipline without practicing discipline. They talk about sacrifice without making sacrifices. They speak about standards without living by standards, and everyone knows. Maybe not consciously, but they know. Because when words and life don't match, the tension shows up in 1,000 different ways. Hesitation in your voice, over-explanation to compensate for lack of experience, borrowed phrases that don't quite sound like you, defensive reactions when questioned. Your words reflect your life. Your advice comes from your scars. Your standards are ones you actually keep. When that alignment exists, you don't have to convince people. They feel the genuineness automatically. Speak from experience, not theory. This doesn't mean you can only talk about things you've personally done. It means that when you give direction, share wisdom, or set standards, you're pulling from real life, yours or observed experiences you've genuinely learned from, not from things you've merely heard or read. Here's what this looks like in practice. Week. You should wake up early and establish a morning routine. Strong. I started waking up at 5 a.m. 6 months ago. First week was brutal, but now it's the most productive part of my day. Here's what I learned about building that habit. See the difference. The second version has texture. It has honesty. It admits difficulty. It speaks from actual experience. The first version is advice. The second version is testimony. People follow testimony. The 3 levels of lived communication. Level 1, direct experience. You've lived this personally. This is the strongest form. I built my business from 0 to 7 figures in 3 years. Here are the 5 decisions that mattered most. Level 2, close observation. You've watched someone else do it and learned from watching. I worked alongside a mentor who built 3 successful companies. Here's what I noticed about how she made decisions. Level 3, studied learning. You've deeply studied something and synthesized real principles, even if you haven't personally done yet. I've spent 200 hours studying negotiation psychology. Here are 3 patterns that show up in every successful negotiation. All 3 are valid, but you need to be honest about which one you're speaking from. The problem comes when level 3 speakers pretend to be level 1 speakers. When the theory tries to act like real experience, why people stop believing you? When your words don't match your life, several things happen. Your tone betrays you. No matter how hard you try, your voice won't sound truly confident. You'll unknowingly hold back, soften, because deep down, you knows you haven't earned those words yet. You attract the wrong followers. People who want to hear motivating speeches but not do real work will follow theory speakers. People who want to actually build something will follow experienced speakers. You have trouble standing firm when questioned. When someone questions your advice and you haven't lived it, you get defensive. But when you've lived it, you just explain further or acknowledge limits to your experience. There's no ego involved. You stop growing. If you're constantly speaking beyond your experience, you're not learning anymore. You're performing. Real growth comes from doing, reflecting, then speaking about what you learned. Your leadership plateaus. Your leadership stops growing. Eventually, people figure out that your words exceed your reality. That gap becomes your ceiling. You can't rise higher than your lived credibility allows. You can't grow beyond the level of trust your real actions have earned. Living what you teach. If you recognize a gap between what you say and how you live, here's how to close it. Option 1, stop speaking about things you haven't lived. This is the fastest fix. If you can't speak from experience, don't speak. Listen instead. Ask questions, learn. Option 2, go live what you're teaching. If you're teaching discipline, become more disciplined. If you're teaching leadership, lead something. If you're teaching courage, do the scary thing. Then speak from that new experience. Option 3, be honest about your level. I haven't personally built a company yet, but I've studied 50 founders, and here are the patterns I see. This is authentic. It doesn't pretend to be more than it is. Speaking from your scars. The most powerful form of lived communication comes from speaking about what was hard, not what was easy. Anyone can talk about their successes. Leaders talk about their failures, their struggles, their learning moments. I tried to scale my team too fast. Hired 6 people in 2 months. 4 of them were wrong fits. Cost me $80K and 6 months of chaos. Here's what I learned about hiring slowly. That communication is gold. Because it's honest about failure. It's specific about consequences. It's vulnerable without being weak. It extracts wisdom from pain. It helps others avoid the same mistake. Your wounds tell your story. The things that tested you, broke you, rebuilt you, those are what give your words authority. Not your wins, your wars. The temptation of borrowed wisdom. Social media has created a generation of people who speak in borrowed phrases. They hear something from someone else, it sounds good, so they repeat it. They accumulate wisdom like quotes, but they haven't lived any of it. This creates communicators who sound impressive, but have no depth. Push past their initial statement, and there's nothing there. Ask, how did you apply that? And they stumble, because they never did apply it. They just liked how it sounded. Real leaders resist this temptation. They speak less, but mean more. They'd rather say one thing they've lived than 10 things they've heard, and people notice the difference. Practical application. Before you give advice, ask yourself, have I done this? If yes, share the real story, including the hard parts. If no, either don't give advice or frame it differently. I'm working on this myself, and here's what I'm learning, or I haven't done this. But here's what I'm seeing in people who have. When you share experiences, include the messy parts. I tried X and it failed because Y. Then I adjusted and tried Z, which worked because real stories have texture. Fake stories are smooth and perfect. Build your credibility slowly. Don't speak on every topic. Develop deep knowledge in a few areas through actual lived experience, then speak powerfully about those. Admit gaps in others. Live first, speak second. Make this your operating principle. Before you teach something, live it for 6 months. Before you coach someone on something, get results yourself first. Before you write about discipline, you build disciplined habits that others can see. The real test. Here's how you know if your words match your life. Could someone follow you around for a week and see evidence of everything you're teaching? If you teach discipline, would they see your disciplined routines? If you teach courage, would they see you doing hard things? If you teach honesty, would they see you telling difficult truths? If you teach focus, would they see you protecting your time? If the answer is yes, your communication will be powerful. If the answer is no, your words are just performance. Practice this. Make a list of the top 5 things you talk about or give advice on regularly. For each one, write down your actual lived experience with it. Be brutally honest. Have you genuinely lived this, or are you repeating what you've heard? For anything where your experience is thin, either, stop speaking about it until you've lived it more. Commit to a 90-day period of actively building experience in that area. Start speaking more from specific stories and less from general principles. Instead of, you need to be consistent, say, for the last 90 days, I've published content every single day. Here's what that consistency taught me about creativity. Notice how your communication shifts. It becomes more specific, more honest, more powerful. People stop nodding politely and start asking real questions, because now you're offering something they can't get from a Google search. You're offering lived wisdom. Your life is your message. Your words are just the delivery system. When the two align, you don't have to try to be persuasive. You just are. Because authenticity is magnetic, and leadership built on real experience is the kind people follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. Chapter 7. Respond, don't react. Weak voices change with the room. Strong voices fill the room with ease. Means that people who speak with confidence and inner strength naturally capture attention and influence others, without needing to force it. Here's a scenario that plays out constantly in leadership moments. Someone challenges your idea, or questions your decision, or pushes back on your direction, or outright attacks what you just said. In that moment, you have 2 choices, react or respond. Most people react. Their voice changes, their body tenses, their words get defensive. They speed up, talk louder, or shut down completely. They match the energy that's coming at them. If someone's aggressive, they get aggressive back. If someone's dismissive, they try harder to convince. If someone's emotional, they get emotional. Reacting is emotional. It's automatic. It's your nervous system taking over. And while it's natural, it's also poison for leadership communication. Because the moment you react, you've handed control to the other person. They're now driving your emotional state, your tone, your message. You're not leading anymore. You're being led. Leaders respond. Response is different from reaction. Reaction is instant and emotional. Response is delayed and intentional. There's a gap between what happens to you and how you speak, and in that gap, you make a choice about how to communicate. This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about channeling it. It's about feeling the spike of anger, defensiveness, or anxiety, and then choosing not to let it dictate your words. Build a mindful pause between reaction and speech. This buffer is where leadership lives. When someone challenges you, questions your decision, or pushes back. Step 1. Pause. Literally, stop talking for 3 to 5 seconds. This break gives you time to shift from your emotional brain, amygdala, to your thinking brain, prefrontal cortex. It's physiological, not just psychological. Step 2. Breathe. 1 deep breath. Not obvious or dramatic, just enough to reset your nervous system. This single breath can prevent 90% of communication mistakes. Step 3. Separate their emotion from their content. Someone might be angry or dismissive in how they speak, but often there's a real concern buried in there. Focus on the concern, not the delivery. Step 4. Respond to the content calmly. Your tone stays steady regardless of theirs. You address their actual point without matching their energy. Here's what this looks like in practice. Challenge. This plan is terrible. It's never going to work. I can't believe we're even considering this. Reaction. Weak. That's not fair. You don't even understand what we're trying to do here. If you'd actually listened to the whole presentation. Response. Strong. 3-second pause. You have concerns about the plan. What specifically do you think won't work? Notice the difference. The reaction is defensive, personal, emotional. The response is calm, specific, and moves toward productive dialogue. Why people react. Understanding why you react helps you stop doing it. Ego protection. When someone challenges your idea, it feels like they're challenging you. Your ego interprets criticism of your plan as criticism of your competence. So it fights back. Fear of losing credibility. You worry that if you don't defend your position immediately and forcefully, others will think you're weak or uncertain. Emotional contagion. Humans naturally mirror the emotions around them. If someone comes at you with anger, your body automatically prepares to match it. Lack of preparation. You haven't thought through potential objections, so pushback feels like an ambush. You react defensively because you're caught off guard. Past patterns. Maybe you learned early that the loudest voice wins, or that backing down means losing. These patterns run deep and trigger automatically. The cost of reacting. Every time you react instead of respond, you pay a price. You lose credibility, even if you win the argument. People remember that you couldn't stay calm. They start to see you as emotionally unreliable. You escalate conflict. Reaction creates counter-reaction. Now you're in a spiral where both sides are getting more heated, and the actual issue gets buried. You make poor decisions. Defensive reactions often lead you to double down on bad ideas just to avoid admitting fault. Ego trumps truth. You train people not to challenge you. If you react badly to pushback, people stop giving you honest feedback. You end up surrounded by yes people, which is leadership death. You exhaust yourself. Emotional reactivity is draining. You leave every challenging conversation feeling depleted because you've been in fight or flight mode. The power of measured response. When you respond instead of react, several things happen. You maintain authority. Staying calm when others are emotional is a power move. It shows you're in control of yourself, which makes people trust you're in control of the situation. You de-escalate. One calm voice in a heated room lowers the temperature for everyone. Your steadiness becomes an anchor. You actually solve problems. Because you're not defensive, you can hear the real concern and address it. Reaction defends. Response solves. You build respect. People might not always agree with you, but they respect someone who stays grounded under pressure. That respect compounds over time. You stay effective longer. Response is sustainable. You can handle dozens of challenging conversations without burning out because you're not flooding yourself with stress hormones each time. Specific situations and how to respond. Aggressive challenge. Someone comes at you hard, maybe even disrespectfully. Response. Lower your volume. Slow your pace. Maintain steady eye contact. I hear your concern. Let's break it down. Your calmness contrasts their aggression and often disarms it. Dismissive attack. Someone writes off your idea with contempt. Response. You don't think this will work. Walk me through your reasoning. You take them seriously even when they're not taking you seriously. This often forces them to engage more thoughtfully. Emotional outburst. Someone gets visibly upset or angry. Response. I can see this matters to you. Let's take a 5-minute break and then address it properly. Acknowledge the emotion without joining it. Give space for them to reset. Hidden insult. Sarcastic comments. Sarcastic comments. Response. It sounds like you have a concern. Say it directly so we can address it. Force the real issue into the open without matching their passive aggressiveness. Direct confrontation. Someone calls out a mistake or failure. Response. You're right. I made a mistake there. Here's what I'm doing to fix it. Own it quickly and move to solution. No defensiveness needed when you're dealing with facts. The role of self-awareness. Responding instead of reacting requires knowing your triggers. What makes you defensive? What makes you emotional? When do you most often react instead of respond? Common triggers. Being questioned in front of others. Ego, status threat. Having your competence challenged. Identity threat. Time pressure combined with criticism. Stress plus threat. Criticism from specific people you don't respect. Resentment trigger. Being interrupted, control threat. Identify your specific triggers. Once you know them, you can prepare responses in advance. When X happens, I will pause, breathe, and say why. Physical management. Your physical state directly impacts your ability to respond versus react. Posture. Stay upright, but relaxed. Tensing up signals fight mode to your brain. Hands, keep them visible and still. Moving hands, clenching, or aggressive gestures all increase emotional reactivity. Facial expression. Consciously relax your face. A tense jaw and furrowed brow increase your stress response. Breathing. Slow, deep breaths activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. Eye contact. Maintain it steadily. Don't stare down, but don't look away either. This grounds both you and the other person. Practice this. You can't build this skill in high-stakes moments. You build it in practice. Mental rehearsal. Before important conversations, visualize potential challenges. See yourself pausing, breathing, and responding calmly. This pre-wires your brain for that response. Low-stakes practice. In everyday conversations, practice the pause. When someone asks you a question, pause 2 seconds before answering. Build the muscle of response delay. Review your reactions. After conversations where you reacted poorly, replay them. What triggered you? What could you have said instead? Write out the response you wish you'd given. This rewires your patterns over time. Create a response library. For common challenges you face, write out calm, measured responses in advance. When the moment comes, you're not creating from scratch. You're deploying something you've already prepared. Get a signal system. Ask someone you trust to give you a subtle signal, a gesture, a cough, when they see you starting to react. That external awareness can help you course correct in real time. Remember, your ability to stay steady when others don't is one of your most valuable leadership assets. It's what makes people feel safe bringing you problems. It's what allows you to make clear decisions under pressure. It's what builds the kind of trust that can't be faked. Reaction is weakness disguised as strength. Response is strength disguised as calm. Master the pause, and you master leadership communication. Chapter 8. Know your point before you speak. If you don't know where you're going, your words will wander. and people won't follow you through the fog. Here's a scene that plays out constantly. Someone starts talking. They have something to say, sort of. They begin with background context. Then they add more context. Then they qualify the context. Then they introduce the main idea. Then they second-guess the main idea. Then they add examples. Then they circle back to the original context. Then they summarize. Then they apologize for talking too long. By the end, no one knows what the point was, including the speaker. This happens when people think out loud. They start speaking before they finish thinking. They're figuring out their point while they're trying to make their point. The result is long and confused speech, circular logic, repeated ideas, tangents that lead nowhere. And most damaging of all, the loss of your audience's attention and respect. People forgive a lot in communication. They'll forgive imperfect grammar, occasional filler words, even some nervousness. But they won't forgive making them work to understand you. If your point is buried under layers of unnecessary information, they'll stop digging. Leadership communication requires pre-thought. You crystallize the idea internally before releasing it externally. You know exactly what you're trying to say before you say it. You've identified your main point, your supporting evidence, and your call to action. And then, only then, do you speak. Before important conversations, define 3 things. Your main point, 1 sentence. What is the single most important thing you need to communicate? Not 3 things. 1. If you can't state it in a single clear sentence, you're not ready to speak. Why it matters. 1 reason. Why should the listener care? What's at stake? What changes if they understand and act on your point? Here 3. What happens next? 1 action. What do you want them to do with this information? Think differently? Make a decision? Take specific action? Change behavior? Everything else is optional. These 3 elements are mandatory. And if you've defined them clearly before you speak, your communication becomes automatically more focused and powerful. The architecture of clear communication. Think of every important communication as having a structure. Opening, state your point clearly. Not after 5 minutes of setup, immediately. We need to change our product pricing strategy. Support, give the essential context or evidence. Our current pricing is 40% below competitors, which customers interpret as lower quality. Action, tell them what needs to happen. I'll present 3 new pricing models at Friday's meeting. Come prepared to decide on one. Close. Restate the core message 1 time. We're changing our pricing to match our quality. That's happening this month. That's it. 4 elements: point, support, action, close. Most conversations don't need more than that. Everything else is clutter, saying the same thing multiple ways, hoping one will land. If you say it clearly once, you don't need to say it 3 more times. The myth of organic conversation. Some people resist structure. I prefer organic, natural conversation. Structure feels stiff, but here's the truth. Structure creates freedom. When you know your point, you can be flexible about how you get there. You can adapt based on questions, respond to reactions, adjust your approach, because you're always tethered to your central message. Without structure, you're not free, you're lost. You wander because you don't have a destination. That's not organic. That's aimless. The best conversationalists have clear points. They just deliver them naturally. Structure doesn't mean robotic. It means intentional. Before any important conversation, write down your main point in 1 sentence. If you can't, you're not ready. Keep working until you can state it clearly in 15 words or less. Identify what your listener already knows. Don't explain that. Start where their knowledge ends. This prevents wasting time on unnecessary background. The so what test. After stating your point, ask so what. That answer becomes your why it matters section. If you can't answer so what, your point might not be worth making yet. After having a conversation, write down what you actually said in bullet points. Look at the structure. Was there 1 clear point or did you jump around? This reveals your patterns and helps you improve. In meetings, Know your position before the meeting starts. If asked about budget, I'll recommend option B because of XYZ. Don't figure it out in the moment. In emails, write your main point in the subject line. First sentence of the email restates it. Body provides essential support. Last sentence states the action needed. Anything that doesn't support that flow gets deleted. In presentations, your title should be your main point. Why we need to change our hiring process. Not hiring process overview. Every slide should advance that one argument. In difficult conversations, clarity becomes even more important when emotions are high. I'm ending this partnership. Here's why. Here's the transition plan. Don't bury difficult messages in softening language. Here's a pattern you'll notice. The clearer you are about your point, the more confident you sound. And the more confident you sound, the more credible you become. Credibility leads to influence. Influence creates impact. It all starts with knowing your point. Conversely, uncertainty creates a downward spiral. Unclear point, uncertain delivery, low credibility, diminished influence, reduced impact. People don't follow unclear messages no matter how passionately delivered. Passion without clarity is just noise. But clarity, even delivered quietly, cuts through everything. During the conversation, notice when you start to drift from your main point. Bring yourself back. Let me refocus on the key issue here. After the conversation, ask yourself, did I communicate my main point clearly? Would the other person be able to summarize my position accurately? If no, what caused it? Review recordings or notes from recent conversations. Identify your clarity patterns. Do you circle back too much? Do you introduce too many points? Awareness is the first step to improvement. Remember, confusion is not a content problem, it's a structure problem. You probably have good ideas. You just need to organize them before releasing them. Think first, structure second, speak third. That's the sequence that creates clear, powerful communication that people actually follow. Chapter 9. Build authority through consistency. People judge your voice over time, not in moments. One powerful conversation doesn't make you a leader. One great presentation doesn't establish your credibility. One moment of clarity doesn't create lasting influence. Leadership communication is built through pattern recognition. People watch you over time. They notice what you do consistently versus what you did once. They track whether your message stays stable or shifts with convenience. They observe whether your standards apply all the time or just when it's easy, and based on that pattern, they decide whether to trust you. Think about the leaders you trust most in your life. What made them trustworthy? Probably not one amazing speech. It was dozens of smaller moments where they showed up consistently, where their words matched across contexts, where they said hard things even when it cost them something, where they maintained their standards even under pressure. That's how trust is built. Not in peaks, but in consistency. Most people understand this intellectually, but fail to execute it practically. They'll be direct and clear in one meeting, then wishy-washy in the next. They'll hold someone accountable one day, then let the same behavior slide the next. They'll be calm under pressure sometimes, but reactive other times. This inconsistency is poisonous to leadership, because people stop trusting your word when they can't predict whether you mean it. They never fully commit because they're waiting to see which version of you shows up today. Your daily communication trains people how to receive your important communication. Every interaction is either building your credibility or eroding it. There are no neutral moments. This means every meeting you lead shapes how people expect you to lead. Every email you send sets expectations for your communication style. Every question you answer demonstrates your thinking process. Every decision you explain reveals your values. Every conflict you handle shows your emotional management. People are always watching. Not in a paranoid way, just in a pattern recognition way. They're unconsciously compiling data about who you are and whether your words can be trusted. The 4 pillars of consistent communication. Message consistency. Your core message. your values. Your standards, your vision should not change based on your audience. What you say to your team should align with what you say to your boss. What you say in public should match what you say in private. This doesn't mean you use identical words every time. It means the substance remains constant. If you value direct communication, you're direct with everyone. If you believe in accountability, you apply it across the board. If you say quality matters, you don't cut corners when deadlines get tight. Inconsistent message. Quality is our priority in team meetings, but just ship it. We need to hit the deadline in private. Consistent message. Quality is our priority, which means we need to adjust timelines when necessary to maintain standards. Behavioral consistency. Your actions must match your words. This seems obvious, but it's where most leadership breaks down. People say one thing and do another constantly. If you ask for feedback, you must act on it or explain why you're not. If you set a meeting for 9 a.m., you arrive at 8:55. If you establish a communication protocol, you follow it yourself. If you talk about work-life balance, you don't send emails at midnight. Every behavioral inconsistency creates a credibility debt, and credibility debt compounds. It gets harder to lead effectively with each instance of do as I say, not as I do. Emotional consistency. This doesn't mean being robotic or never showing emotion. It means people can predict your emotional range and responses. They know you won't explode. They know you won't shut down. They know you can handle bad news without spiraling. When your emotional state is unpredictable, people start managing you instead of being led by you. They withhold information. They time their requests. They avoid telling you hard truths, all because they don't know which version of you they'll get. Emotional consistency means steady in crisis, calm under pressure, measured in conflict, controlled when frustrated. Not fake, just regulated. Standard consistency. The standards you set must apply consistently across people and situations. If you hold one person accountable for being late but excuse another, everyone notices. If you demand excellence from junior staff but accept mediocrity from favorites, your standards become meaningless. This is especially important in how you communicate expectations. If the standard is respond to clients within 24 hours, it's 24 hours for everyone. No exceptions without explicit discussion. Otherwise, it's not a standard, it's a suggestion. The compounding effect. Here's what happens when you communicate consistently. Week 1, people notice you say what you mean. Month 1, people notice you mean what you say. Quarter, when people start to trust that your word is reliable. Year 1, people follow your direction without needing constant explanation, because they've learned your word is good. Year 2 plus, your leadership becomes effortless. You've built such deep trust that your influence extends beyond your direct presence. This compounds over time. Early trust earns you more trust. Early credibility creates more credibility, but it requires consistency at every step. One major inconsistency can reset months of trust building. Common consistency traps. The convenience trap. Being consistent when it's easy, but abandoning your standards when they become inconvenient. The audience trap, changing your message based on who's listening. I tell executives we're on track, but I tell my team we're behind. This always gets discovered and destroys trust. The mood trap, letting your emotional state determine your communication. Direct and clear when you're feeling confident, but hesitant and unclear when you're stressed. The pressure trap, maintaining standards in normal times but abandoning them when pressure increases. This is when consistency matters most. The relationship trap, communicating differently based on personal relationships rather than role requirements. Giving favorites more slack, being harder on people you don't like. Building consistency in practice. Create communication protocols for yourself. How do you handle questions you don't know the answer to? How do you deliver bad news? How do you respond to challenges? Document your approach and stick to it. At the end of each week, review. Did I say what I meant every time? Did my actions match my words? Did I apply standards evenly? Was I emotionally steady? Where did I show inconsistency? Develop language patterns. Create go-to phrases for common situations and use them consistently. This builds predictability. For giving feedback, here's what I observed. Here's the impact. Here's what needs to change. For saying no, that's not aligned with our current priorities. If circumstances change, I'll revisit. For making decisions based on X criteria, the decision is Y. Here's the reasoning. The long game. Consistency is boring. It's not flashy. It doesn't create viral moments or memorable speeches. It's the same message, the same standards, the same approach day after day, week after week, month after month. But it's what builds unshakable leadership. Because people don't follow inspiration, they follow reliability. They don't follow motivation, they follow trustworthiness. They don't follow excitement, they follow consistency. The leaders who last are the ones whose word becomes currency. When they say something, it happens. When they commit, it's done. When they set a standard, it holds. And that reputation is built one consistent action at a time. Practice this. Choose one area of your communication to make completely consistent for the next 30 days. Option 1. Response time. If you say you'll respond within 24 hours, never miss that window. Set systems to ensure it. Option 2. Meeting punctuality. Always arrive 5 minutes early. Always end on time. Never run over without clear permission from attendees. Option 3. Feedback delivery. Use the exact same framework every time you give feedback. Make it predictable. Option 4. Decision explanation. Every single decision includes the reasoning. No exceptions. Pick one. Execute it perfectly for 30 days. Track it. Then add another area. Build consistency one pattern at a time. Keep a consistency journal for 1 month. Every evening, write down, one moment where I was consistent today, one moment where I wasn't, what I'll do differently tomorrow. This awareness practice alone will improve your consistency by 40 to 50%. Remember, authority isn't given or taken. It's earned through pattern. And the pattern that earns the most authority is consistency, in message, in behavior, in emotion, in standards. Master consistency, and your voice becomes the one people trust when it matters most. Chapter 10. Speak to elevate, not impress. When you speak to look smart, people feel manipulated. When you speak to help them think better, they feel lifted. There's a fundamental fork in leadership communication. You can speak to serve yourself or speak to serve others. You can communicate to build your image or to deliver value. You can talk to prove you're impressive or to make others more capable. Most people, especially early in their leadership journey, fall into the first trap. They use communication as performance. They choose words that make them sound intelligent. They reference things to demonstrate their knowledge. They speak in ways designed to make people think, wow, they're smart, and it works briefly. People might be impressed. They might think you're intelligent or well-read or sophisticated, but they won't follow you, because impressive is not the same as valuable. Entertainment is not the same as elevation. Real leadership communication has a different motive: to elevate the listener, to make them think more clearly, to help them see something they couldn't see before, to give them a framework they can use, to challenge them to be more than they currently are. The difference shows up in subtle ways. Impressive uses complex language unnecessarily. We need to operationalize the synergistic opportunities embedded in our cross-functional value streams. Elevating uses clear language purposefully. We need to break down walls between departments so we can solve problems faster. Ask before speaking. Will this make them think more clearly, act more decisively, or see themselves more accurately? If yes, say it. If no, don't. It's that simple. This question recalibrates your entire approach to communication. Because now you're not thinking about how you'll sound. You're thinking about what they need to hear. How elevation changes your communication. You simplify instead of complicate. When you want to impress, complexity looks like intelligence. But when you want to elevate, you simplify ruthlessly. Because the goal isn't to show off your understanding, it's to transfer understanding. The simpler you can make something, the more people can actually use it. Einstein allegedly said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That's elevation thinking. True mastery is the ability to make complex things accessible. You focus on their growth, not your image. Impressive speakers talk about their achievements to build credibility. Elevating speakers talk about their struggles to build connection and teach. I built a 7-figure business is impressive, but not useful. I failed at 3 businesses before the 4th worked. Here's what I learned about cash flow, hiring, and market timing from those failures is elevating. It gives people actual wisdom they can apply. You challenge instead of comfort. When you want to be impressive, you tell people what they want to hear. You stay safe. You avoid difficult truths. But elevation requires saying what people need to hear, even when it's uncomfortable. You're capable of more than this. That excuse is keeping you stuck. You know what you need to do. You're just avoiding it. These statements don't make you look nice, but they help people grow. That's elevation. You ask questions instead of giving all the answers. Impressive communicators have all the answers. They demonstrate their knowledge by solving everything. Elevating communicators ask powerful questions that help others find their own answers. What's really stopping you? If you weren't afraid, what would you do? What would have to be true for this to work? Questions elevate because they develop capability in others. Answers impress but create dependency. You give frameworks, not just information. Information is impressive. Here are 47 facts about market trends. Frameworks are elevating. Here's a 3-question test for evaluating any market opportunity. Is it growing? Can we differentiate? Can we execute? Frameworks give people a tool they can use repeatedly. Information is one-time use. Elevation builds capability that lasts. The motive check. Before important communications, check your motive honestly. Am I saying this because it makes me sound smart? It shows off my knowledge. It makes me look good. It builds my image. Or am I saying this because it helps them think better? It gives them a tool they need, and it challenges them to grow. It clarifies something confusing. The first set is about you. The second set is about them. Leadership lives in the second set. Warning signs. You're impressing, not elevating. You use jargon when plain language would work. Jargon makes you sound insider-ish, but excludes listeners and creates confusion. You speak longer than necessary. Impressive speakers keep talking because they're enjoying the attention. Elevating speakers say what's needed and stop. You avoid admitting uncertainty. Impressive speakers pretend to know everything. Elevating speakers say, I don't know, but here's how we'll find out. You get defensive when questioned. If your motive is impression, challenges feel like attacks. If your motive is elevation, challenges are opportunities to clarify and teach. People leave conversations confused, but feeling like you're smart. That's impression. Elevation leaves people clear on what to do next, even if they forgot the specific words you used. How to practice. Elevation. The so what test. After every statement, ask, so what? Why does this matter to them? If you can't answer clearly, you might be impressing rather than elevating. The simplicity challenge. Take any complex idea you communicate regularly. Explain it in half the words, then half again. Force yourself to extract only what's essential. End explanations with, "How could you use this?" Or, "What's one way you'll apply this?" This ensures you're delivering usable value, not just interesting information. Once per conversation, share something you got wrong or are still figuring out. This shifts from impression, "I know everything," to elevation, "We're learning together." After important conversations, ask, "Was that helpful? And what's your main takeaway?" Their answers reveal whether you elevated or just impressed. The cost of impression seeking. When you prioritize looking impressive over being useful, people don't come back. They might admire you from a distance, but they don't seek you out for advice. Because you're impressive, not helpful, you don't develop deep trust. Impressed people are an audience. Elevated people are partners. Only the latter creates real loyalty. You plateau. When your communication is about maintaining your image, you stop taking risks. You stop admitting gaps. You stop growing. You exhaust yourself. Performing is draining. Constantly trying to sound impressive requires energy you could be using to create actual value. You build the wrong kind of influence. People might follow your social media or attend your presentations, but they won't follow you through difficulty. Impression creates fans. Elevation creates committed team members. The ultimate test. 6 months after a conversation with you, what do people remember? If they remember being impressed by you, you focused on impression. If they remember a specific insight they still use, you focused on elevation. If they remember being challenged to grow, you focused on elevation. If they remember feeling capable after talking to you, you focused on elevation. The goal isn't to be remembered. It's to create lasting value that continues working long after you've stopped talking. Practice this. For your next 5 important conversations, use this pre-conversation prep to 1. Write down, what does this person need to understand, decide, or do after we talk? 2. Identify, what's the simplest way to help them get there? The 3. Ask yourself, am I including anything just to sound impressive? 4. Cut everything that doesn't serve their understanding or action. After each conversation, write a brief note. Did I elevate or impress? What did they take away? How can I be more useful next time? Review these notes weekly. You'll start seeing patterns in when you slip into impression seeking versus when you genuinely elevate. Record yourself giving advice or teaching something. Listen back. Count how many times you talk about yourself versus how many times you focus on making the concept clear for them. Aim for 80% plus concept focused. Remember, impressive speakers get applause. Elevating speakers create results. Impressive speakers build an audience. Elevating speakers build leaders. Impressive speakers are remembered for their performance. Elevating speakers are remembered for the growth they catalyzed in others. Your choice of motive determines your legacy. Choose elevation every single time. Conclusion, your voice is your standard. Everything in this book comes down to one truth. Your voice reflects your inner world. You cannot fake the kind of communication that creates real leadership. You can't perform your way into genuine influence. You have to build it through alignment between who you are and how you speak. If you're scattered internally, you'll sound scattered externally, no matter what techniques you use. If you're certain internally, you'll sound certain externally, even if your words aren't perfect. If you've built standards internally, your voice will carry them externally without effort. This is why leadership communication isn't about learning scripts or memorizing phrases. It's about becoming the kind of person whose natural communication style creates influence. The integration. Everything you've learned in these chapters works together. Speak from certainty, Chapter 1, because you've done the internal work to be certain. Cut the clutter, Chapter 2, because you respect others' time and attention. Control your tone, Chapter 3, because your physical and emotional state is managed. Say what others won't, Chapter 4, because your commitment to truth exceeds your need for comfort. Use silence strategically, Chapter 5, because you trust your message to land without over-explanation. Match words to life, Chapter 6, because your communication flows from genuine experience. Respond, don't react, Chapter 7, because you've built the buffer between stimulus and speech. Know your point first, Chapter 8, because you think before you speak. Stay consistent, Chapter 9, because your values don't change with circumstances. Elevate others, Chapter 10, because your motive is service, not ego. These aren't separate skills. They're integrated aspects of leadership presence. When you strengthen one, you strengthen all of them. When you neglect one, the others become harder. The daily practice. Leadership voice isn't built in big moments. It's built in small repetitions. Every morning, before your day begins, remind yourself of one communication principle you're working on. Today, I will pause before responding. Every conversation, practice one element consciously. Don't try to perfect everything at once. Focus on removing filler words this week. Next week, focus on knowing your point before speaking. Build mastery one layer at a time. Every evening, review one interaction. What went well? Where did you slip? What will you adjust tomorrow? This reflection compounds into skill. Every week, record yourself once. Listen objectively. Track your progress. Celebrate improvements. Identify next areas for growth. Every month, audit your consistency. Are you living what you're teaching? Is your daily communication building or eroding trust? Course correct as needed. This isn't about manipulation. It's about responsibility. You have ideas, vision, values, and standards that matter. The world needs them, but they're useless if you can't communicate them effectively. Your responsibility is to build a voice worthy of your message. Start where you are. If you struggle with certainty, spend this week removing hedging language. If you ramble, focus on one-sentence points. If your tone betrays you, work on breathing and physical grounding. If you avoid hard truths, say one difficult thing this week. If you fear silence, add 3-second pauses after key statements. Pick one, master it, then add another. Layer by layer, you're building the voice that will carry you through your entire leadership journey. The promise. If you commit to this work, not just reading it, but living it, 6 months from now you'll notice. People listen differently when you speak. Your words require less follow-up explanation. Difficult conversations feel more manageable. Your influence extends beyond your title. Teams execute your direction more smoothly. Your stress decreases because your communication is clear. Your confidence grows because your voice matches who you are. 1 year from now, people will describe you differently. Not just smart or capable, but clear, trustworthy, steady, honest, direct. These are the words that describe real leaders. 3 years from now, you won't think about these principles consciously anymore. They'll be integrated into who you are. Your voice will lead naturally because you've become someone whose communication creates movement. The final truth. Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the clearest, the most grounded, the most honest, the most consistent, the most purposeful. It's about building a voice that doesn't need to demand attention because it earns it through clarity. A voice that doesn't need to prove itself because it speaks from genuine experience. A voice that doesn't need to control others because it guides them toward their own capability. A voice that doesn't perform leadership, it embodies it. Your voice is ready. The principles are clear. The path is mapped. Now comes the only part that matters, consistent practice over time. Start today. Not in the big meeting, in the next conversation. Speak with intention, cut the filler, stay grounded, say what matters. One conversation at a time. One day at a time, build the voice that will carry you through every challenge, opportunity, and defining moment of your leadership journey, because what moves you is what will move. Others speak from that place. Speak from your standards. Speak from what you've learned through real experience. That's what makes your voice different. That's what makes your message matter. That's what makes people follow. Your voice is your leadership. Build it with purpose. Use it with responsibility. And watch everything change.